All right, and I think we're live. Looks good. We got one viewer so far.
All right. Hey, everyone. We're going to give a little couple seconds here for a couple folks to join in.
Yep, coming in already. All right, if you're there, say hi in the comments. Let us know you're hanging out.
Absolutely. Please do.
All right, we
Mhm.
got one looking good. Well, we're doing
All
this.
right. So while we give some folks a chance to get in here, I'm Michael Grosvenor, and
I'm Jack
next to me
Fernino.
here,
How you guys doing? Actually, just gonna try to start a watch party on another
hmm
channel here.
so this is something brand new for us. So we're just kind of figuring things out as we go. So should be a lot of fun now.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. I feel like it's weird. I feel like we should have music behind us, but that's a risky thing, both on a technical and copyrightable side.
Absolutely, yeah. So I don't know if you folks know, but Facebook, among others, are pretty tough when it comes to copyright situations. So, on the podcast in general, we tend to have audio clips and things like that as we go through the episode. If we were to do that here, Facebook would zap it, pick it up pretty quick. So this is going to be free and clear of all of that. So it's just going to be Jack and I.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna have to come up with some. We're gonna have to come up with some of our own filler music in the background for the next
Yeah,
time.
yeah, it's something that we own free and clear that we could just have a little something happen, and I agree.
Yeah, I wish I played keyboard now because I have a micro Korg and I could probably do some cool synth stuff and whatnot. But there's no way it would sound like anything halfway decent. You get like three good notes and I'd clank, but whatever.
Right, right.
Yeah,
That makes sense.
I'm actually gonna grab something so I'm ready. Hope I didn't ruin the surprise if anybody's really eagle eyed on that. But yeah, you guys get to hear us unedited, so you hear all our ums. And
Yeah,
every time Michael says something, and I go yeah yeah, and then I take a second, I go yeah, and I always edit out my first two yeahs, so I sound so much more articulate.
yeah. I will say, because Jack and I both spend a good amount of time editing, so what you finally hear is a pretty polished product, and we're getting cleaner and smoother with it as we go along. But this is a whole new animal for us right now. So yeah, you're gonna probably be hearing some extra yas and breaths and that's interesting and all the funny little things that we've picked up that we say quite a bit over these last few episodes.
Yeah, Dave McLean, it might be choppy right now. I'm hoping that comes through pretty quickly. I've just been getting used to using online broadcasting, and it's a work in progress here for sure. What's up, Dewey? How you doing, man? Thanks for tuning in.
Hey, Dewey. So Dewey and I actually go back quite a long ways. I've known him for the better part of a decade
Oh yeah,
now.
okay.
So we've both been kind of in the Billy Joel fan circles for years, but
Hmm.
also another band called the Verve Pipe out of Michigan, who I worked with for a long time. He's taped so many shows and has come to so many Verve Pipe shows.
Hmm.
So Dewey and I have known each other for a long time and have got a chance to hang quite a bit.
Oh, cool.
Dewey's good people. Yeah.
Nice.
He's a great, incredible taper too. He's gotten captured so many great shows over the years.
Oh yeah.
Oh
Oh,
yeah.
that's cool.
Live 2 CD is his handle in
Okay.
the tape trading world. Yeah.
Nice.
So a little bit about us. If you haven't listened to us before, the podcast here is called Glass Houses, a Billy Joel podcast. And it's something that I had been toying around with for a couple of years now. And last summer, finally decided to get a little bit serious with it and decide this was something I wanted to experiment with and give it a shot. And the months that followed, I started kind of doing some research and figuring out what I wanted to do with it. But I quickly realized that this would be a much more pleasant user experience if I had a co-host and someone driving this ship with me. And through a great Facebook group, Billy Joel Completely Retold, I connected with Jack over here, and I think it might have been New Year's Day, even, or New Year's Eve, something like
I
that.
think it was New Year's Eve.
Hmm.
Yeah.
He and I had a call that morning, and just kind of got a feel for each other and talked about Billy and kind of what we wanted to do with this podcast a bit. And we both clicked right away, and it was a pretty quick decision on both our ends that we wanted to move forward. And probably not 10 days later, we were recording episode number 1. So it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, it's funny. That first episode was actually almost a recreation of the first time we ever spoke. It was New Year's Eve. I took like a 2 hour walk around the block. We just started talking, and we actually had to kind of go back and remember what we said so we could re-record it with some better audio. But that was how quickly it kind of clicked. That first time we
Yeah,
talked, we just pretty much like did 2 full episodes worth.
yeah, absolutely. It was we captured. It's a Jack actually is a writer by trade, so he records so he can transcribe a lot of interviews and things like that. And so he actually recorded our first conversation for posterity's sake. And while we were still trying to work out the technical things of it, we're like, well, if we can't figure this out, maybe our first conversation will make for something fun. So, who knows? As we go down the road, that might be something that may see the light of day. We'll see. But yeah, episode 1 really did kind of mirror, in a lot of ways, what we talked about the very first time.
Yeah, yeah, it was pretty cool. So, what do you think? You want to jump into some fan mail? We'll start with that.
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah, do you have that pulled up?
You might want to, actually, let me pull it up on my tablet here. I'm always worried about pulling up one too many windows right now, but I think I can do it
Yeah,
on the other
I think I've
device.
got I've got it nearby as well.
Yeah. I love that, now we're inside all the time, and I'm telling my kids, you can't be on screens all the time. You got to cut down your screen time. And then they come down to where I'm working, and I have like 2 monitors
It's
and a tablet running at once. I'm like, yeah, but this is work. It's cool. And they're like, but
it's
you're watching The Good Place on the tablet. I'm like, I'm still doing work on the other 2 screens. Like, it's go do your
that's
homework. Yeah, if you want to start that off, I'll jump in.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's see here. We've had a few great emails come in over the last couple of weeks, and it's really been great to hear about how you all have connected with us and with the show and things like that. So let's see. So the first one is going to be from Jason Berkowitz, and I'm not sure where Jason is from, but here's what Jason's got to say. Hey guys, I heard about your show while listening to Metal Up Your podcast. Metallica is my all-time favorite band, but Billy is by far my favorite singer-songwriter. I actually got my sister into his music when she was a little girl, and she and Billy even heard, and she and Billy even have the same birthday. I'm a 50-year-old guy, but born and raised in Westchester, New York, now living in North Carolina. I discovered Billy at a very early age and just flat out fell in love with his music. His music truly has stood up all these years. What other act hasn't put out new music in almost 30 years and can still... Oh, I lost my spot here. Yeah, what other act hasn't put out new music in 30 years and can still play to sold out arenas, but sold out stadiums around the world? No one but Billy Joel that I can think of. I've seen him multiple times, most recently in 2018 down at Wake Forest University. He was just as good then as the first time I saw him at the Nassau Coliseum on the Stormfront Tour back in 1990.
Nice.
I've had the privilege of seeing him play both MSG and Yankee Stadium. I've seen him twice with Elton. That was amazing. Anyway, I hope you guys have huge success with the podcast, and I'm glad to be getting in and going on for the ride for the beginning. Looking forward to listening to you, and hopefully I'll keep emailing you. Glad to have you. Glad to have a good Billy Joel podcast to listen to. Thanks, guys. Jason.
Awesome.
Thanks
a lot,
Jason. That's so nice of you. Yeah.
That's great.
So what Jason's referring to, Metal Up Your Podcast, it is a all Metallica podcast. And if anyone knows me whatsoever, and even if you've listened to these past couple episodes, aside from Billy, Metallica is my all-time favorite band. I've seen them 13, 14 times over the years. A lot of this record collection behind me is Metallica, and they're just one of my all-time favorites. So while Jack and I were in the early process of getting this podcast going, I reached out to Clint and Ethan, who are the hosts of Metal Up Your Podcast, and I've gotten to know over the last couple of years. And I had just a barrage of questions. You know, how do you guys record remotely? And you know, what services do you use, and what different things do you do here? And they were so patient and so encouraging, and answered all the questions I could possibly have. So, just super nice guys. And when we launched, Clint Wells actually gave us a nice shout out on the podcast, which was incredible. And looks like that's where our new friend here came to us from. So thanks, Jason, and thanks, Metal Up Your Podcast.
That's cool. You know, it's kind of funny how many people are combination fans of Metallica and Billy Joel. So it's obviously you and Jason, Michael, and then there was a cover band out of Long Island called For Whom the Bell Jolls, and the entire conceit.
I heard about that.
Oh, it was great. The T-shirts alone were just fantastic. There was one where like it was all the guys from Metallica, but it was just Billy Joel, face photoshopped in, and then they would have like the Ride the Lightning cover, but it was a piano instead of an electric chair. You know,
that's
it
great.
was so cool, and it was like the perfect name. They came out, you know, it was all. Maybe they did Angry Young Man. They did Moving Out. I never got to see them, you know, because I'm down here in Philly, and they kind of played few and far between. But it was pretty funny. They would do like they really like stuck it for a while. It was pretty cool.
That's a funny concept. You'd be surprised with how many people over the years I've met who do like both Billy and Metallica. You would think the worlds are so far apart, but they're, you know, if you strip them down to their essence, they both just great songs. And so I think that thread kind of goes between them, whether you got, you know, Billy's piano based stuff and the heavy metal hard rock stuff that Metallica has been doing for, almost 40 years now themselves. But yeah, it's wild to see how many people, you know, really, I found that like both. And it's funny because a year or two ago, I happened to see Billy's Instagram post a photo of Billy backstage at a Billy show with James Hetfield.
No kidding.
Yeah, my mind was like blown right there. I'm like, oh my gosh, my two worlds are actually colliding right there in Chicago or something. And yeah, it was pretty crazy to see both of them in a photo together. It was cool.
Yeah, well, we all know Billy invented heavy metal with Attila, so you know the connection certainly makes sense.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you know they actually credit that album with the first blast beat. I forget what song it is offhand, but for like 15 seconds or so, John Smalls just gives you one of those.
Yeah, that's funny.
You want to keep reading them? I'm having a little trouble pulling them up here, but
Yeah,
I'll
yeah.
certainly
I'll put
respond.
another one. Yeah, sure. All right, and we have Paul Trumbull from Michigan, which is where I'm from originally. Paul writes, I enjoyed the podcast immensely. There were times while listening to the first podcast that I actually teared up. I have the same passion for Billy Joel. He was my first musical love. I have so many more now, but he sparked my love for music. The first album I bought with my own money was Glass Houses. Actually, even the first 45 I bought as well was still rock and roll to me. He was also my first concert, February 1984, at the Chrysler Arena in Ann Arbor, Michigan.
Nice.
The afterglow of that concert stayed with me for weeks when I was 15. I can't wait to listen to more. My favorite hit of Billy's would be Moving Out, and one of my favorite Deeps tracks is also Sleeping with the Television On, as well as Laura. Nearly everything you say, I think, yes, thank you for this. It made me so happy listening. Looking forward to more. Paul Trumbull.
Cool. Thanks a lot,
Thank
Paul.
you. Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah, thanks, Paul.
yeah, it's really cool to see. I'm telling you, man, sleeping with the television on, that's going to be like the sleeper. In 15 years, everybody's going to be all about that one.
It is. There's something about it. And Glass Houses was stacked with so many hit songs. So it's one of those, like The Stranger as well had so many hits that it's like there's some great songs that just never were a single that, but I think Sleeping with the Television On, you're right. I think that's a sleeper that a lot of people are discovering more so now than ever.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just hook after hook in that song. He really busted it out. I almost want to think that he could only have so many singles off the record and he had to draw the line somewhere. Like that's my my fan fiction
Like
theory.
they're like, okay, we don't want to completely oversaturate. Yeah.
Yeah, you got to stop somewhere.
Yeah. I wish they would do that. I wish they would have that same theory with some artists
Yeah.
over the last 20 years. It's like I've heard people say, it's like, oh, I love such and such album, but you couldn't escape it for like 4 years, and now I never listened to it.
Yeah.
So it's a fine line between breaking something to make a hit and oversaturation, I think.
Yeah, I think. Did you ever read The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg? I guess it came out maybe 10 years ago, 8 years ago.
I think so.
Yeah, and they talked about Hey Ya and how they really had to prime the audience for that because it was a great song, but it was a little odd, and they just had to keep leading it in, and then it just caught fire, And then of course you couldn't not hear it anywhere. But yeah, but that's a difference between like one song that you hear all the time and like Billy Joel puts out an album and there's like just a succession of singles. At least it's
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
it's keeping up like that.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we've got one more message from Bob Young in Farmington, Michigan. Bob writes that in the fall of 1977, junior year, a few weeks before, I took my future wife out on our first date. It was my first Billy Joel experience. I was only vaguely aware of New York State of Mind and thought Billy Joel was a jazz musician. Driving north on Telegraph Road just prior to reaching Plymouth Road, and Just the Way You Are comes on the radio. I totally loved it and thought, wow, I guess I'm into jazz now. Maybe that makes me special. I immediately went out and bought The Stranger on 8-track and was surprised that he wasn't really a jazz musician, but I fell in love with him right away. I was a little aware of 52nd Street, but the next one I bought was The Nylon Curtain when I was in college. I bought the songbook and studied that concurrently with my music theory classes, and it really helped. Then Songs in the Attic introduced me to his back catalog. Then I got 52nd Street, then An Innocent Man came out just as I was heading home for Christmas break. My first concert was the Bridge Tour at Chrysler Arena. Absolutely no visible wires on the stage. It was amazing. Saw him again on the Stormfront Tour, and that was it. Concerts were a luxury back then. So, and then he goes on. Bob and I are friends, so he went on to some stuff just between us. But so those were some of his early Billy memories. So I appreciate that, Bob. I'm glad you're listening and dig it so far. And it's funny. The two of our emails. They're both of their first Billy shows were at the same venue, different tours. So that's
Hmm.
kind of cool.
Oh, cool. Yeah, it's always exciting to hear from people that really got to see him back in his prime. I mean, my first concert was the River of Dreams tour, and it was great. You know, I saw him two more times after that. But you know, even going back and watching those old videos, man, it's like what it must have been like to catch him on the Glass Houses tour, or Innocent Man, or even
Hmm.
you know, especially earlier, obviously. I've been listening to the Bottom Line bootleg recently, which is really good.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That's a great one. Yeah, I've seen Billy, you know, I never saw him until the Stormfront tour, so most of my experience is therefore as far as going to a show. And his shows are still great to this day and so much fun, and I never miss it. But yeah, I would have loved
I think we lost your audio there
this.
for a minute. Oh, you would have
That would
loved.
have been
There you go.
that would have been such a treat.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And what was your first? You yeah, that's right. You just said Stormfront. That's right.
Yeah, mine. Yeah, the Stormfront tour was my first tour, February 1990, at the Palace of Auburn Hills in Michigan, and they're actually demolishing that venue as we speak. Well, probably not as we speak, but they're in the middle of tearing down that venue. So that was my first time seeing him. I was 10 years old.
Wow.
Uh, Family came with me, my best friend Barry, and just it was a whole bunch of us. We were sitting in the upper level, and I was pretty speechless. This was my first concert ever. So this was my only concert experience at that time, and gosh, it was so much fun.
I'd imagine, especially that young too. It must have been great. I mean, I saw him. I guess I was 12. It was seventh grade when River of Dreams came out, so I was still pretty young. And the only other concert I'd gone to was I saw the Temptations in Atlantic City at like a nightclub. So that was a sit down at the tables kind of thing. You know, it was
Sure.
classy. It was
Yeah.
fun. And then I was like, wow, man, this is a party. This is pretty cool.
Yeah. It's a whole different experiment seeing that kind of situation
Yeah.
versus like an arena show. And Billy, at that point, his live shows were super high energy, loud drums, loud guitars, and
Hmm.
you're not getting that at like a Temptations, show like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I was up in the nosebleed seats, and you could still see Liberty's like hands just going up and down the whole time. It was pretty cool.
Mhm.
Like you didn't even need the binoculars for that.
No, not at all. It's I think I remember him mentioning like that was part of the reason why he plays like that was to play to the back of the room. Like I think his playing got more animated the bigger the venues. So like even if you're sitting in one of the worst seats possible, you can still see and feel what he's doing behind the drums. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that. Yeah, I'd love to go back now and just go through some old bootleg videos and see how that pans out over time. That'd be pretty funny.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
that would be. So I love to know if anyone's on right now. What were some of your first? What was your first Billy Joel show? Like when and where, if you remember.
Yeah, let us know
So
in
I
the
know.
comments there. I'm sorry.
Yeah, yeah. We're on a little bit of a delay, so that's why it may be a little odd at times. But
Yeah. So Dave McLean wants to know: do we plan to get the podcast on Apple's platform? I'll give that to you. You're the behind the scenes
oh
guy.
yeah, absolutely. We are already there. We've got episode 1 through 3 already on Apple Podcasts. So if you search Glass Houses Billy Joel podcast, you will find us. We are right there on Apple Podcasts. We are on Stitcher, Google Podcasts, Podbean, um, almost every platform that podcasts are, except for maybe like SoundCloud and YouTube.
Hmm.
You could find us. So that's just search Glass Houses Billy Joel podcast, and you'll find us.
Yeah. All right.
Oh, looks
So
like Dewey. Yeah, Dewey, Nassau Coliseum, May 4th, 1998. So that would be Billy's just before his birthday.
huh.
So this was like the greatest hits 3 tour, if I'm not mistaken. Does that sound familiar, Dewey? I want to say this was the greatest hits 3 tour, and this was not long after Billy, if I remember correctly, launched his first website. Um, and they did like a fan vote, which has been done to death by a million bands since then, which I think
Hmm.
is still fun. But I think he did like a fan vote where people could vote on the set list or vote for, X amount of songs to go in the set or something like that.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
interesting.
So it was the first and last time he's seen him do "She's Got Away." Huh.
I don't think I've seen him do that. I mean, I'm now that you mention it, it's almost surprising to think that he would do it in an arena. But if anybody could pull it off, so it's Billy.
Yeah. I think with "She's Got Away" it was a big enough hit that the crowd shuts up enough. Like, like I think if you were to roll through James or something like that, I don't think it would get the same attention.
Yeah, that's
Um,
fair.
but I saw him. Um, it would be during the Madison Square Garden run. I used to work. Did I lose audio?
Should still be there.
Okay, I got you there. My earpods are making weird noises. So yeah, I work used to take me to New York once a year in April for the New York Auto Show, where I would do some work. And so I think 3 out of the 4 years I went there, it just happened to coincide with the April show that Billy had booked there. And so I was lucky to see. "She's Got Away." I think on one of those shows.
Cool. So
Yeah.
speaking of She's Got Away, that's all the fan mail, right? Or was there another
Yes.
one? Yeah. So speaking of She's Got Away, I think that's a good segue into we wanted to do a little show and tell session. And I think we
Yeah.
can only do this once because Michael's just going to run circles around me because I don't have nearly as much memorabilia.
I've been collecting since I was in the crib,
Yeah.
literally.
But while he's getting ready, if anybody heard our last podcast episode, we talked about Cold Spring Harbor, and we talked about the many
Yep.
different versions there are out there. And Michael talked about how he has an original pressing, so not the Columbia re-release in the early '80s, but the actual one on Family Productions. And I at least thought it would be cool if he kind of picks it up. And we talked about the
Yeah.
differences, the things you see on the label, things like that. But we can show it to you now.
Yeah, absolutely. So at first glance, I'm going to hold them both up. I'm going to try to back up a little bit so they're in frame. Come on, get out of here. I've got these in sleeves, and this one's giving me some trouble. There we go. There we go. That's better. Okay. So,
Oh, my mom's on here. I better behave now.
uh-oh. Watch your manners, Jack.
Yeah, right.
Cool. So here we go. So here are two pressings of Cold Spring Harbor. So if you can see,
I think you're a little choppy, so just make sure you hold them up for a good moment.
yeah, yeah. So here's first glance. And on the one in my right hand here is the Columbia reissue from 1983. And the one in my left hand is the Family Productions release from 1971. So the two things you can really notice about it is the Columbia version, his head is zoomed in quite a bit. His face is a much tighter crop. And then if you look at the original from 71, it's much more zoomed out. So that's a quick way you could tell which version it is.
Mm-hmm.
And then just super quick on it, the other giveaway is the label. The Columbia reissue has the standard label that he's had for years, which is the red vinyl label with the Columbia and orange around it. And then you got the Family Productions version, which looks quite different. So that one, it's a blue-green label with the text in silver, and then you see the Family Productions logo with stars all around it on the top. So that kind of gives you an idea. Pretty cool.
Yeah, it's
And
interesting.
you can't tell by looking at it, but these were mastered at the wrong speed. So it's about 7 or 8% faster. So if you throw this on a turntable and listen to it, it's going to sound audibly different for sure.
Yeah. And my mom's goading me, saying, "Who did you go to your first Billy Joel concert with?" So I talked about this on the first episode. But yeah, it was my
Yep.
parents, my cousins, everybody that we all grew up listening to Billy Joel with together. Mom, I do tell the story about the guy behind us that lit up the joint and started smoking with all the kids right in front of him.
That's
So
right.
it's
I
been
remember that.
recorded for posterity.
Yep. It's on the record now.
Yeah, yeah.
That was funny.
So my show and tell comes from my good friend Norm Russell, also known as Yeah Norm. And Norm runs an open mic night in Northeast Philly at the Reals near me. And we've been going there for years and years and years. And on the best nights, we go back to his house because he has thousands of records. I think the guy just, every time he leaves his house, he buys another record. He's got like a system where if the record's upside down, he hasn't even listened to it yet. So he's got like 5 copies of everything and this and that. So a couple of weeks ago, he says, "Oh, Jack, we got to get together and listen to records. I got one. I think you're really going to want to hear it." And he wouldn't tell me what it was. Just said he picked it up at a thrift store. So finally, I got him to come over, and he pulls out this gem right here. So for those of you that don't know, the Hassles was Billy's original, second band, technically, when he was a teenager. So this is pretty rare. They put out 2 albums on United Artists. Obviously they really didn't go anywhere, so they went out of print. As far as I know, I don't think they're on CD, at least not as just as the straight albums. I haven't seen it
Right.
anywhere.
It exists. United Artists or Universal, whoever owns the masters,
Mhm.
put it out in like the mid '90s. They basically threw both albums on one disc. I think they call it "You Got Me Humming" or something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think I've at least personally seen each individual one on the CD.
Right, right. Dave, that's hilarious. That's so funny that happened to you too. So, so there's 2 cool things about this. First of all, it was really something listening to it, and I think if you don't know it's Billy, if you just found this in a thrift shop, you wouldn't think it. But if you know, you can hear his voice start coming out, which is interesting. But there's a very non-Billy Billy picture right there of him in what was this, Michael? 1967.
Oh yeah, I want to say it was
67.
about 67. Yeah.
Right. So now we're listening to this, and it's stuck together. It's a gatefold, and it's stuck. And so we're listening to this record, and we're listening to other records, and we're wondering, can we get this thing open? Should we risk it? Are we going to rip it?
Yeah.
Are we going to make it worse? So we kind of go in with a long, like butcher knife, and we just click, 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 going through, and we open it, right? So I'm going to try to roll this into frame the right way. So we open it up, and if you look, what do we see here? John Small. We got ourselves an autograph. And who else is we got over here? Can't see Richie. We got ourselves an autograph. Come all the way over. No dice. Just a picture of Billy. It's a cool picture, but whoever got the autographs on this didn't get around to having Billy sign it. So what a shame. It was so close to being a true collector's item. But
yeah, that's still really cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. You know what? I tell you what, the liner notes remind me of Iron Butterfly. Did you ever read the liner notes to Inagata Davida?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's just got that same, like, they're really just trying to, like, talk up what's just a bunch of teenagers, like, making a rock album. They're just trying to find anything interesting to say. Dave, I actually, I worked at Tower Records on South Street in 2001 and 2002. That's pretty cool. I never saw that one in there, though. I don't know when you got it.
Yeah.
So that's my show and tell.
So I'm going to show one more quick Billy related thing. This is another favorite album of mine, and this was just after the Hassles. This is the Attila record.
Oh, you have it on record? Oh, you bum.
I do.
Oh man, jeez.
And I I love the photo of him and John Small on the back.
I don't think I've ever seen that.
Yeah. I managed to find it on eBay, like a really, really good deal about 10 years ago. I didn't pay too much for it, believe it or not. And it's actually in remarkably good condition. The vinyl is super clean, and the cover, it's not all ripped apart, which you see a lot of the albums that came out in the 60s and early 70s were printed on this really hard cardstock, and the seams get split really easy, and they fall apart and things like that. And this one miraculously is still fully intact, which is so cool.
That's awesome. You know, John
Yeah,
Smalls vaguely resembles Doug Stegmeyer in that photo.
yeah,
Very,
I could see that. Just I could see it a little bit.
just a little in his eyes. Just a look in his eyes looks a little like Doug. That's pretty
Yeah,
cool. Back in, I'm gonna say maybe 2003, 2004. So when the best you could do was just maybe download an MP3 or two from Napster or LimeWire. It wasn't like BitTorrents where you could get a whole album. I had only heard maybe one or two songs from Attila, and I did the same thing. I went on eBay, but I didn't have an account, and I think I had a feeling that like if I didn't have an account, somebody wouldn't really sell it to me. So I had to get this guy at work to, I say, I'll bid on it, I'll pay you back, whatever it is, just get this thing. And that poor guy, man, every day I saw him at work, I'm like, did it come in yet? Did it come in yet? I was like a little kid. He's like, get the hell away from my desk. When it comes in, it comes in. I don't want it in my house. I'm not holding on to it. I'll
right.
just give it to you. So it
Oh,
took
that's
like two
hilarious.
months for whoever it was to finally get off their butt and ship it out. And I had it on cassette, and I was riding around in the car listening to it. Like finally, after all those years.
Oh man, that's awesome.
So, all right. I think we're doing well. Hopefully the audio is coming through. I know the video is a little choppy.
Yeah.
Once this when this quarantine thing started going down, I kind of went buck wild and just bought some AV equipment. So this is pretty new to me. Everything's coming in to me. So if anybody happens to be like so curious, what's going on right now is that, well, Michael and I live on opposite sides of the country. I'm in Philadelphia, and I know you're in Washington State, and I always forget the city.
Yeah, so it's Longview, Washington, like
Right.
the Green Day song. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I don't know where they get that from. Man, every time I talk to you, I learn something.
Actually, according to Billy Joe Armstrong, there was a rock club in this town that they played it for the first time, and they didn't have a title.
Hmm.
So they just called it Longview because this is where they played it first, and it stuck, according to him. So that's kind of neat.
Huh, that's cool. So
Yep.
yeah, so I'm talking to Michael via Skype, and I'm just going into my program with a webcam, and then I'm going into OBS Studio, and then we put together all those graphics and stuff, and we're pushing it back out to you guys. But it's been, trying to find, any excuse. If I have to go out to get groceries, I go out and buy an Ethernet cable, or I go out and buy a capture card, and little by little, I'm trying to get this up and running so we get some quality
Yeah.
audio and video going for you guys. But it sounds like the audio is going through at least, even if we're a little choppy sometimes. Hopefully that's the case.
Yeah. That's good.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
So let's jump down. I wanted to do a couple top fives. If anybody's seen High Fidelity or otherwise as a music nerd, you've probably played this game at some point. You
Yes.
just list your top five songs by whatever topic you guys come up with. And so
Yeah. When you proposed this, I was like, this is a tough one.
yeah. That's why I cheated and I came up with like six top fives to do. I'm like, well, that's going to cover most of the catalog. Like if you can't put it in one, you'll find another spot.
Right. Good point. Good
Yeah.
point.
So I'm tricky. But let's do three of them. Let's do the first two. Let's do
Okay.
the first two and then the bottom two because the last one's not a Billy Joel one. How's that sound?
Perfect. Let's do it.
Yeah. All right. Cool. So the first one we wanted to do was our top five greatest songs, or top five favorite songs each from Greatest Hits 1, Greatest Hits 2, and Greatest Hits 3.
Yep.
So these would be the big hits. So, when we're telling you our favorite songs, we don't have to try to, go all rock snob and come out with some obscure B-side. We can just go ahead and say it's Piano Man if we feel like it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
For sure.
You want to go first,
Uh,
Michael?
Yeah, sure. So my number five was The Entertainer. And
Okay.
I'm actually kind of surprised that I chose it as well. I mean, when you're digging through the hits, there's a million options. So, but I really like the Streetlife Serenade album, and I feel like it kind of got lost in Billy Joel's catalog.
Hmm.
With the Piano Man having obviously Piano Man and all things like that. It I feel Street Life just kind of got skipped over a little bit, and then you had Turnstiles, The Stranger, and so on. So I'm going to go The Entertainer for number five.
Okay.
What do you got? What do you got for your number five?
I didn't put them in order. Whoops. So, all right.
That's
What the hell did I write there? I don't even know what that says. Okay, so I got four of these for sure. We're gonna put. I'm gonna put this. I'm gonna put Captain Jack as number five from the
okay.
first from volume one.
Volume one.
Yeah.
So for those out there, so we're kind of the I don't know if you've realized it, but the vinyl version, the CD version, the cassette version, the side one and two is different, and there's some different track listings. So we kind of combine, like basically anything from any version of it is fair game. We're considering volume one and two, the songs that were from, Cold Spring Harbor through The Stranger. Volume two is going to be anything 52nd Street all the way through the two new songs from 1985.
Yeah. So it was I had it on cassette, not CD, and the cassette version didn't have Captain Jack. So it took me a little while longer to really hear that one. I used to go to my cousin's
Mhm.
house and listen to Piano Man. I didn't have it for the longest time, so it took me a little while to find that song. But once I
Mhm.
got it, I really dug it. I do like the songs in the Attic version better, but it is a great song, and I think one of the things I love about it, it's such an odd subject, and it's treated sympathetically, but not totally buying into it. I guess like he's got some
Yeah,
disdain for the character, but he's not just crapping on him either. So I think that made for an interesting song, a lot of tension.
oh, nice, nice. That's a good choice.
Yeah.
That's a great choice. A quick hello from a few folks here who I've got a few different watch parties going on
Oh, cool.
I'm that I'm neglecting. So my buddy Pete Schmidt says hello. Pete is an incredible singer songwriter from Atlanta. I actually worked with Pete years ago, gosh, 2003, 2004, um, when he put out his first EP and then his first full length album, No Safe Bet. So he's down there with his family in Atlanta, and rumor has it he's working on some new songs, so that's exciting. And then our friend Melissa, who the radio show Songs from the Attic, she says hello, as well as Mary Ferguson.
Cool. Yeah, songs
So
in the
hi
attic.
everyone.
Hi. So yeah, songs in the attic was very kind to give us a shout out the other day. We really appreciate that. That was really cool to
Yeah,
see pop up. Just to see. We're all in it, and we're all celebrating this great music, and we're all doing it together.
absolutely. So go check out Songs from the Attic if you get a chance.
Yeah.
Um, so back to our list here. I'm going to go number four. I put Only the Good Die Young.
Okay.
Just something about that shuffle and the way those guys play. I just going back, I remember that being a song that I played over and over again from this particular set. So that's gonna be my number four.
Cool. All right, number four, I'm going with Always a Woman. And this was not a favorite of mine for a very long time. I think I mentioned this on the podcasts we recorded. To me, one of the small drawbacks of getting into Billy Joel or any band really when you're really young is you kind of don't have the patience for a ballad when you're 5 years old. They're slow. Your He-Man action figures are way more interesting than that. So it takes me a while to come back around to those. But for this song, you guys will all hear in a couple of weeks. We have a very special episode coming up that we've been working on in bits and pieces. And I had the chance to connect with this song in a really spectacular, amazing way. And it's just this song has been stuck in my head ever since. So this was a late addition to my top five.
Nice choice. Nice choice.
Yeah,
So my number three on this list is gonna be Captain Jack.
nice.
So mine made the top five. That made the top five for me as well. I just always loved that song, and I think I rediscovered it on Songs in the Attic, and I think that brought me back to this version as well.
Hmm.
And it's one of the standout songs on the set to me, and then just and on Piano Man as well.
Cool. Yeah, my number three. Now we're just kind of swapping them back and forth. My number three is The Entertainer. It took me a
Yep.
while to hear this one again because I had the cassette version, and I'll never forget. We were driving over the Verrazano Bridge, and The Entertainer comes on, and my dad goes, "Hey, it's Billy Joel." I'm like, "What Billy Joel song is this? I've never heard it." And that was the first time I really, really got a good glimpse of pissed off Billy Joel. You know, it's such a caustic song. I love it. Um, Later on, when I got into like Yes and all these,
I think I lost my audio real quick.
I think you're here. I
So
can hear you.
keep talking. I'm
Okay,
switching to headphones.
sure. So, yeah, so I heard it on the radio, so it was almost a bonus track to me, not having Street Life Serenade yet. And it was really cool. I loved how caustic it was. I loved how pissed off he sounded in it. Later on, when I got into Yes and Emerson, Lake and Palmer and all those, and I understood the power of the Moog synthesizer, and I came to understand that that's what he was playing. That just added another dimension to it. So I really got into this one.
Right on. My number two is going to be Moving Out.
Okay.
And I just love this song. The groove on it is fantastic. Just the storyline of the whole song is just great, and the ending is probably one of my favorite Billy endings with the Doug Stegmeyer Corvette peel out and just that big da-da-da-ba-da-da-da-da. I
Yeah.
love that ending there. So yeah, Moving Out number two for me.
Cool. I'm gonna go with The Stranger for number two. Was always an early favorite of mine. Almost
Yeah,
scared me as a kid. It's so menacing. You know, I've
it
talked
is.
about other ones being caustic or whatever, and because as a kid, it's so cryptic. You have no conception of what he's talking about. All you know is it's got this weird intro. He's got that like real drawl going on to it. You know, you know it's got to do with the cover. The cover is a little creepy looking, so you're putting
Yeah,
this all together. And song I didn't hear for a while, and when I got back into it, I was like, man, it's got a great groove. It's got a creepy groove.
yeah,
It's just a great song all around.
that's a great one.
Yeah,
I love The Stranger. I'm surprised I didn't put it into my top five. And that's the thing with there's so many songs, you're going to be like, oh, I love that one too. It's really hard. And I think I tried to do this without overthinking it too much.
yeah,
So I think that made it a little more. This is what I think at this moment.
yeah, yeah.
So my number one for Greatest Hits Volume One is Scenes from an Italian Restaurant.
Right.
Probably in my top five or even top three Billy Joel songs of all time.
Mm-hmm.
Just everything about that song, I love it. It's 7+ minutes long, and it doesn't feel like it, which is tough to do in a song.
Yeah.
The saxophone part just is one of my favorite Richie Cannata lines,
Mm-hmm.
and during one of the breakdown sections underneath Richie's piano solo, Liberty's drum part, where he's doing this kind of thing on the ride cymbal, and he's doing a fill with his left hand between the snare and the toms. That was the inspiration for a song, at least the drum part of a song that my band did years ago, and I kind of copped that vibe just in one smidge of one of our songs. But yeah, I've always loved Scenes, just top to bottom, such a perfect song in my opinion.
That's awesome. I left this off my top five just because it seemed like it was too obvious.
Yeah,
I wanted to give a couple things a rep, but that's one of those songs, and I put it up there with Terrapin Station by the Grateful Dead. That I love. I really, 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 really love when it's a song within a song.
yeah,
There's just something about that way. It reminds me of 10,001 Arabian Nights. With 1001 Arabian Nights, what is that? Where there's a framework around these short stories, sort of thing.
yes, yeah,
And interpretation seems from Italian restaurant. You get that feeling of floating away into a story, and a friend of mine, he thinks the Dixieland part's a little cheesy. I'm like, no, man, that's what makes it great. It's that idea of sitting around a fire and seeing images occur. And when you go back even and you look at like old Disney movies and stuff. Maybe Fantasia would be the most obvious, but I was thinking even Dumbo and stuff like that. It's how it's spoke with that visual language, and Scenes had a visual language to it, you know, by using all these audio cues where you could see the marching band going down the street, you know, even the Brenda and Eddie part. Just something about the way it flows. You could just, the way he talks about them, you can just see it as people talking about this couple sort of thing.
Yeah.
The changes in scene, they're really so artfully done. But that said, my number one here is going to be Moving Out. I always love this one. I love the Corvette peel out. I love the strut, just the absolute swagger to this song. The older I get, the more I get out of the lyrics here and there. You know, watching how people, you know, live and do these things, and I'll put that as my number one on that one.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. You want to jump down? I'm sorry.
Go ahead. Yeah.
I was going to say, you want to jump down to deep cuts because we took a nice long time, so we got 2 and 3. We can do on other ones, I think.
Yeah, I think so. So let's do deep cuts. Cool. Number 5 for me. I'm very surprised with my list, other than my number 1. As I started putting this together, this is the first thing I typed, and I'm like, okay, interesting. Mm-hmm. So my number 5 is actually going to be The Great Suburban Showdown.
Ooh.
Yeah. From Street Life Serenade. It's a song that not many folks have heard.
No.
You know, that, like I said, that album's kind of a sleeper album in general. But it just paints such a picture of suburban life, which I could identify with. And, you know, I just, you know, really liked the production of it. It's a very 70s sounding song, but just a great melody. And, yeah, it's Great Suburban Showdown for me, number 5.
That's really cool. I'm gonna change my one of mine now, I think. No, I'll keep it. All right, so real quick, I'm gonna make then Roberta an honorable mention, but I'm going to go with number 5 is gonna be I've Loved These Days, and I'm only putting it number 5 because I think that of all the other ones I picked, that's maybe the most well known of it. It's so amazingly bittersweet. I remember when I was a kid, I almost couldn't listen to it because it was so sad, and I didn't know why he was sad. You could just tell something was very sad about it. To be honest with you, the last couple of weeks, that's been the one that just keeps popping up in my head with everything going on. It just has that.
Sure.
You know, obviously Miami 2017 is the big apocalypse song, but that's the big personal apocalypse one. You know.
Agreed.
If if Miami 2017 is is the apocalypse of the future, I've Loved These Days is apocalypse now. Oh.
Well played. Well played.
I need a rim shot. Jesus.
I know. Where are my drums?
All right, so that's my number 5.
All right, my number 4 is going to be off the Bridge album.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, and this was his duet with Cyndi Lauper, Code of Silence. I love that it's acoustic guitar driven.
Okay.
It's just the rich tone of that acoustic guitar. And Billy, you know, typically wasn't a duets guy. I mean, up until this album, there weren't special guests or duets or anything like that. And Cyndi co-wrote it with Billy as well. And so it gave it a bit of a different edge and a different approach. And I love their harmonies and the way they sing together. And I've never seen it live or never heard it on the radio or anything like that. But I love the chorus and great melodies all around. So
that one's definition of deep cut. It's so odd lyrically that I never quite got into it, but I definitely appreciate it in those ways. There's some good drama to it for sure.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with State of Grace, number 4. Always love that one. Buried deep on Stormfront.
Yeah.
I love the hook. I love the keyboard sound on it.
Yeah.
It's such a vulnerable and honest song, and it's nothing anybody else that would consider themselves a rock star would ever write. Robert Plant would never go up and bear it out that much, you know. Like,
no, that's a good point. Yeah.
And you know, the 80s being Billy Joel's big, you know, I'm a famous rock star, I'm married to a model years, you know, to put something out like that on an album, even on the second side, you know, towards the end,
Yeah.
You know, it's courageous in its way, and I just thought it was so well done, and it's
Agreed.
on par with almost on par with some of the really devastatingly honest and mature songs that like Billy Bragg writes, where it's like just such a great adult,
Yeah.
mature look at love. So I'm gonna put that.
Yeah,
on.
that's a way to put it. Yeah, and I do love how he pushes his vocal on it. I mean, this for Billy as he's turning 40 on this album,
Uh-huh.
he's really hitting some of the high registers. Like overall, that song is up there vocally, and it's just such a strong vocal
Yeah.
as well.
All
So
right.
let's see, deep cut for me, number 3. I'm gonna go down to the Nylon Curtain album
Okay.
and Surprises.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's his Beatles record,
Yeah.
and Surprises really screams Beatles to me, and I just love Liberty's groove with it. It just the way it moves around Billy's. Is it a harpsichord he's playing on that
Sounds
song
like it. Yeah.
during the verses at least?
Mhm.
And just it's very different and very kind of like we were talking about B sections earlier and on an earlier episode, and this is one of those B sections that's a little strange and out there, but it still works for the song, and
Yeah.
it's a fun one to listen to, and buried in the back of Nylon Curtain. But I'm gonna put that solid at number 3.
That's cool. You know, it's funny as we talk about these. It's fun to find these ones where we say, "Wow, that's a weird song." For somebody that's known as being such a
Yeah.
straight ahead pop guy, he does have these. Real quick, Dewey Cole. I'm looking at this here. CW Post College, May 6th, 1977. Definitely going to check that out. Thanks. I love old college shows because they're so intimate, and he was so hungry in those days that those shows are
Yeah.
always great. Let's see what we got here. Deep Cuts, Last of the Big Time Spenders. I dig that. Dave McLean there.
Ooh.
Everybody
Yeah.
Has a Dream. That one grew on me. We played The Stranger all the way through last year with a band, and we were all like, man, it's a shame this one isn't bigger because it's a fun one to play. I Don't Want to Be Alone. That's a good one. It's funny. Only recently did I realize what a Elvis Costello sort of pastiche that one is. I like it a lot.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
especially the way he's singing those verses.
Yeah, that stuffy nose vocal that Elvis Costello did so well. Yeah.
Yeah, I could totally see it. You're right.
Yeah. Michael, we're gonna have to take singing lessons because we're starting to like sing parts on the
Sing
podcast.
parts, I know.
We're gonna have to get some ringers in here to like sing the parts we're talking
Seriously.
about. What am I up to? Three. Traveling Prayer. Always loved Traveling Prayer. Always loved
Ooh,
me a
yeah.
good train beat. Even though I was from Brooklyn and you were not allowed to like country music. All right, so a funny little story. You know how when you're a kid, and you see something on a commercial and you just repeat it. So they used to have this commercial on, and it was all your favorite country and western songs are now on 102.3 FM.
Oh
So one
yeah.
day I'm in the car with my dad and we're driving along. I'm like, Dad, put on 102.3. He's like, why? It's like, it's all your favorite country and western songs. Get the hell out of here. I'm not listening to country western.
No.
But it's such an odd song for Billy, but it's such a fun
Yeah.
song. It's well written. I always love the violin on it, the fiddle. Yeah, it's it's a bit of a fantasy song, and that's
Yep.
that's appealing in its way. So I'll put that as number 3.
No, good choice.
Yeah.
Good choice. Let's see. My number 2 is going to be off 52nd Street. We've got Until the Night,
Ooh,
Yeah.
okay.
and it's his tip of the hat to the Righteous Brothers.
Yeah.
And always loved the 52nd Street version. I think it's fantastic.
Uh-huh.
But I think I even got a new appreciation for it when Sony put out the Life on Long Island version on YouTube a couple years ago, which was the first time it ever saw the light of day. And I love that live performance of it. You've got, because it's a very vocal heavy song. And so on this, you've got specifically Russell Javers
Yeah.
and Doug Stegmeyer handling a lot of the vocals.
Mhm.
And like there's the midsection, and when the sun goes down and the day is over, that whole bit,
Mhm.
Billy and Russell are trading lead vocals back and forth, and it just sounds so good. And then during the choruses, it's Billy and Doug, and this was the first time I noticed how well Billy and Doug sing together. Like Doug sounds like Billy. I mean, their voices together. Like when I watched this live clip, it sounded like Billy harmonizing with himself, and then I realized, no, that's Doug, and it was just incredible.
Yeah,
it's another long song as well, but I love it. Love it.
that's cool.
Yeah.
All right, another quick Jack as a kid story with that one. I used to think the line was, "I never ask you where you go when I leave you with the money." And my justification was he goes to work and he gives his wife money to go shopping.
That's funny. I'm not. Here's the money. Go do your shopping. I'm not going to ask what you buy.
Some Goodfellas stuff. How much you need?
Right.
What are we up to here? Number 2, Get It Right the First Time. Love this song. Always love this song. Will always love this song. Don't care if other people don't like this song.
Yeah.
It's Hapless Billy, and I love Hapless Billy. I love Billy. He's just like his bumbling character, and that's kind of what he is here. I tell you what, man, he's got some great songs for like if you've ever like felt awkward around the opposite sex, man. He speaks to that really well, and I think this is one where he does it well, but he doesn't get maudlin about it, and he doesn't like get down on himself. It's just like he's a little nervous, he's a little hand wringing, he's gonna go and he's gonna give this a shot, that kind of thing. The groove is great.
Yep.
It's funny when I had the distinct pleasure of interviewing Liberty a couple of years ago, and he was telling me how, that was his Steve Gadd impression, doing that song. Okay. Yeah. And how that song took him the longest. It took the entire band the longest to do, and Phil Ramone had to be like, guys, for a song called "Get It Right the First Time," you did not get it right the first time.
Not one bit. I always wondered. Next time I talk to him, I've always wondered why they chose to do a fade up, like a fade in, on the song.
Because it's such a great. You know what? I'll bet you. I'll put money. I'll put money on it. What the hell? Not a lot, but I'll put some money on this. Right? What came out first? 50 Ways to Leave Your Lover or Get It Right the First Time?
Good question.
If it's 50 Ways, I'll bet you that it's an homage to that because that fades into the drums.
I can see that. Let's see. 50 Ways to Leave Your Lover was 75. So it beat it by 2 years.
Yeah.
And you know who produced it?
Phil Ramone.
Phil Ramone.
Yeah. So that's my theory. That's my fan fiction for the night.
I'm going to hop on board with that.
Yeah.
I'm going to hop on board with that.
I don't know how to say his last name. Mike Stutz from Retold?
Yes.
Yeah. He put out, he did some break-aparts, I think, of the SACD. 6 channel tracks. There's some mean synthesizers on that song. It's buried. It follows the bass line, and it's like some like nice dirty analog synth. Yeah, really buried down. If you listen for it, you'll hear it.
Okay, I gotta check that out.
Yeah.
I'll have to check that one out. So we're down to number 1, I think, on our deep cuts, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I've already talked about this in, I think, in our first episode. Sleeping with the Television On from Glass Houses.
Yeah.
Nothing I don't like about it. It's one of my favorite Billy songs. And, like we said, it's a sleeper.
Mm-hmm.
But everything's a hook in it. I mean, the guitar parts are hooks. Like, both guitar parts to me are singable. I love the way David Brown and Russell Javors play off each other guitar-wise, and it's just got such a groove. And it's got, it's that very cool 80s power pop that I just love. The choice of the organ solo is interesting. I don't know what to make of that, but that is... but overall, it's just such a good song.
Yeah, definitely. Well, it was my number 1 too, which we've talked about this one before, so I guess we both saw this one coming.
No surprise. Yeah.
I was thinking about what I love. I love that little Fonzie A at the beginning. Hey, wah wah wah.
Yeah, to me, because you hear some of that stuff all over the Glass Houses album, and to me. And, Billy has gone on to say, that this was like the most fun album that they've ever made.
Mm-hmm.
They were just so loose and having fun, and they just wanted to make a fun rock and roll record.
Right.
And like the fact that stuff like that ends up on recording to me just kind of speaks to like how loose they were.
Yeah, yeah. That it reminds me of the video from My Life where they're walking through the studio and he can't catch up with them and he's like going like that. You know, it's the
Like,
same kind of
guys, yeah.
hapless Billy as I call him.
Hapless Billy.
So yeah, man, that's it. Oh, man, I got some to go back and listen to now that I haven't dusted off in a while.
Yeah.
So what do you think? You want to get off Billy for a second and try to come back, or
Yeah, let's do that.
All right. So I think this will be interesting. We just as Michael and I get to know each other too, and we get to know you guys. You know, let's kind of talk about some of the other bands we're into.
Yeah.
So I don't know, Michael. What else? What have you always been into? And we'll say anything you've kind of discovered recently.
Yeah. So I, one band that I wouldn't say always, but I discovered probably when I was 10 years old is Metallica.
Yeah.
And there's no secret, if you've listened to the episodes before, that I am a mega fan. I first saw them in 1997 on the Load Tour. Saw them most recently with the San Francisco Symphony down in San Francisco last year. That was incredible.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and they are one band who just constantly evolves. I mean, they were considered thrash metal pioneers in the 80s with their first couple albums.
Uh-huh.
And they grew and expanded. And in the 90s, you know, they made such a huge rock record. And then they went the total opposite way and did like kind of a more dirty bluesy rock record with a little alternative thrown in the mix, cut their hair short, you know, the whole bit. And they're just a band that's always evolved and always been so interesting to me. And they're so good to their fan base, and just all-time favorite band would be Metallica that I've been a fan of most of my life.
Cool. All right, I'll go with Frank Zappa. Zappa I got into in high school, and I'm into. I can't say I'm into Zappa like some people are into the Grateful Dead, but yeah. Once I got on that bus, I just never got off, and that was There's a line in the Frank Zappa book where he used to say he used to play Edgar Varese for people that came over as the ultimate test of their intelligence. You know, they can understand it. And, you know, my young snotty ways, I'd be like, well, if you don't get Frank Zappa, you're not that smart, you know.
Right.
But, you know, every couple of years, man, I cycle right back. I'll get into a different group of his albums. I'll find something new to love about it. You know, most recently I got into Roxy and Elsewhere. You Can't Do That on Stage Volume 2, One Size Fits All. And just, man, it was just like discovering a whole different band again. So,
I bet. I remember when I used to tour manage for a living years ago, and the guy I was out with, Ashton Allen, I remember he picked up Baby Snakes DVD.
Oh, yeah.
And we had a DVD player installed in the Chevy Suburban we were touring around in. And that was one of the things that was like heavy rotation for like a year while we were on the road.
I believe it. Hey, real quick, I'm sorry. Dave McLean, thanks so much for hanging out, man. Have a good night. Hope to see you again soon. That's awesome. That must have been a fun one, too. I love, what's it, Muffin Man at the end of that one with him and Terry Bozzio going buck wild at the end?
Bozzio. Yes, yep.
Yeah.
And Terry was like a kid back then.
Yeah. A couple of those guys he picked up, they were kids. Vinny Colaiuta was pretty young. I'm going to lean on the drummers now. Somebody else was a baby. Steve Vai was probably pretty young when he started with them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that was the thing. Frank just knew how to assemble like these young, raw, talented people.
Yeah.
And who weren't like so set in their ways that you know, these guys were like willing to go with whatever he was going to throw at them.
Yeah, he was like Miles Davis. You know, he was one of those guys. It was the holy grail to play with him.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and he used to just change them up all the time. All right, cool. How about somebody newer that you've been into? Or if I put you on the spot because I wrote these out, clearly I can go.
Yeah. So, you know, by newer, I'm going to say within the last decade. So this is a singer-songwriter based out of California. His name's Tyrone Wells. And just an incredible musician. He's got such a rich voice, can write a pop song to rival indie pop song out there.
Yeah.
He's put out several albums dating back to the 90s. Prior to being solo artist, he was in a band called Sky Park, which I think was like a Christian type rock band. And but he has the most captivating live show. And I've, my wife and I, Jen, we've seen him several times over the last 10 years and gotten to know him a bit, just going to shows. And he's just such an incredible, nice guy to boot. So that helps. But I would recommend checking that guy out. His name's Tyrone Wells.
Cool. Definitely. Yeah. Real quick, Dewey called. No, I have not seen him do Sleeping with the Television on live. That sounds awesome. If you're still here, I'm kind of curious to know what the reaction was like in the stadium that night, or in the Garden that night, because it is such a deep cut. Like, did people go nuts for it? Were people a little, we're not sure what's going on? Like, what was that like?
Yeah.
But man, that would be great to see, especially if you're into it. It's got to feel like he's playing it just for you, so that's great.
And for me, I get why his shows are 95% hits, because he's playing for those who know the hits. I mean, if we were to do a deep cut show, it would probably be a theater show. Something small that which would be incredible. But for me, having seen him so many times, that's what gets me excited, is the off chance I see something live for the first time.
Yeah.
Like a year or two ago, a couple of years ago in New York, I saw them try to do Running on Ice.
Oh, I saw the video of that, yeah.
Yeah, and it was like they were just figuring it out as they went along. That was a ton of fun. And I saw them in Portland, Oregon back in 2017, and they did Stop in Nevada, which was amazing.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to go find that now.
Is that on stuff YouTube? Like that. I might have put it on YouTube myself. I just
find your account.
Took out the phone, held it to my chest so I wasn't looking through a viewfinder.
Yeah. And
just I'm I got to capture this, but I want to still pay attention.
That's great.
I think it might be on my YouTube page.
Nice. Which way I want to go with this? All right, I'm going to talk about these guys as I talk about some of the other stuff on an episode. I got into chiptunes over the past couple of years, which is pretty cool. So it's people actually composing music on Game Boys. So it all sounds like old Nintendo music.
Oh, cool.
But a lot of these guys are serious composers, and they're just using that as the medium. And so two of them is Chipocrit, which is actually out of Philly. I saw him play live at actually on a talk about chiptunes, and he's a little more punky. And then there's this guy from Britain who, from what I understand, was writing some of this stuff in high school and college, called Fear of Dark. And man, dude, if you like instrumental music, if you have any sort of nostalgia for Nintendo, if you like electronic music, check out Chipocrit, check out Fear of Dark. I love what they do. It's so textured. It's so sophisticated,
really?
And not in a snotty way. It's pleasing. It's like a meal, and but it's so accessible because it's not strings and, bassoons and stuff. So if you have a sort of aversion to what sounds like dusty old classical music,
right,
you get that chance to really feel and hear all that great melodic harmonic stuff, all this great arranging, but in a language that maybe resonates with you a little more. So that's why I'm going.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Oh, good choice.
Thanks.
Good choice.
See, Dewey Cole says he was swapping out. He went out with all for Lena. I caught that at the next show. Both reactions were subpar.
Yeah, it's a shame.
Yeah,
it's a shame.
Yeah, but Dewey, you were there, and there was a couple other people. You guys were just spread out, and you guys all had a great time with it. Minor Variation. I think that one's way riskier.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But all right, how you feeling? We don't have a way to communicate yet behind the scenes. I am so afraid to touch my computer. God forbid something happens. So I'm just like
the fact that the stream has stayed up the whole time is encouraging.
Oh, come on, man! Don't say that now. My computer's gonna blow up.
Yeah.
My house is gonna fall down.
The only casualty so far has been my AirPods. Apparently, the batteries now are only lasting about 45 minutes.
Ooh.
So I switched to the studio headphones, but other than that, it's still going.
All right. Well, Yeah, I think this is a pretty good spot. I think we got a good, every time we do one of these, we're like, man, I hope we got enough to talk about, and then we get through about half the list. So
Yeah, you'd be surprised. It's pretty funny. There's some we're like, nah, I don't know if this will be enough, and we'll go through it. And sometimes, like we both have decided we're like, it turns out there's so much to unpack here. Maybe we'll save this for something else because there's so much to talk about. So it's amazing once you start to kind of unpeel things, how much there is.
Mhm. Dewey, we're gonna wait a while. We're trying to space out the album episodes because we run the risk of blowing through those real quick. So
Yeah, we had talked about how we want to do it. You know, I think we're also not gonna go in sequential order necessarily. We just figured Cold Spring Harbor was a good natural starting point, and but we're gonna jump around a bit. So you may see. You may see us dig into just a year like 1987, or you might see us go talk about, Russell Javers on an episode, and then we'll go talk about Stormfront, and then we'll talk about Danny Korchmar, so we're kind of going to bounce around his career. And, because if we kind of just go through it, then there's a definite kind of ending point as far as releases and albums and things like that. So we figured it'd be fun to kind of jump around and just kind of see where it made sense.
yeah,
And if you're still tuning in, here's a little sneak peek. Our next episode is going to be live from Long Island.
yeah, yeah. This was a lot of fun. We made a really, really nice viewing companion to this, where we kind of dug in. We searched the nooks and crannies of everything you can see on the camera, on stage. We looked into who was playing that night. Got some backstory and history of things that were going on. We found some reviews that came out when it was coming on HBO, right?
HBO, yeah, first came out on HBO.
Yeah. Yep. So, and that comes out next week. I've lost track of time.
It's going to be a week from yesterday. So it's going to be next. What is that? The 31st?
Yeah, I got probably.
So if you haven't seen the pattern yet, we're releasing episodes every other Tuesday. So the last one came out on the 17th, I want to say, and the next one's going to be out next Wednesday. So It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, so definitely check that out.
So I want to, real quick before we kind of wrap up too, I want to kind of, I think Dewey's still with us. How are you guys holding up out there? This is kind of a new world that we're just, kind of quarantined at home and everything's shut down, so to speak, out there. How you dealing with it over there, Jack?
I'm doing all right. Like I said, my coping mechanism was to decide that I have to live stream. So it was run out by a camera, run out by a capture card, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I work from home anyway, but now my kids are home and my girlfriend's here too because everybody's home. So I moved my desk down to the basement, and then after like a week of that, I was like, all right, I'm being a complete hermit, so I have to come back upstairs. and then I'm at the damn fridge every 2 seconds. I'm like, I'm going back to the basement,
Go back to the basement.
Yeah. So it hasn't been that bad. Philly's I don't know, man. Like, I mean, I go out, but I try to just go to the store if I absolutely need something, or grab some food. But there's a lot of people that's still out there, and I've started finally seeing some people with face masks and stuff. So I think people are starting to get the idea. But it's weird, man. It's I think we all kind of settled into it, and at some point we're all just gonna freak,
Yeah.
Hopefully we come out of it before that. How about you?
Yeah, for sure. It's been interesting. By nature of I'm not going to get into the details, but the nature of a lot of what I do for work, it's all been pretty affected by this. So things have ground to a halt work-wise for now. So I'm hoping that kind of, once this all passes, things resume in some form. So right now it's just a major holding pattern.
Mm-hmm.
And we were actually on vacation when everything started to go crazy with this. We took we're on the West Coast, so we went out to Maui for the week, and which we'd been planning forever. And by the time we left, nothing was so crazy yet that it made us any gave us like legit pause to cancel or anything. And so we got out there, but no sooner did we get out there that everything started to just unravel in the States.
Mm.
And Hawaii was kind of the last of the states to really kind of be affected by it.
Right.
So everything was still open. It was all business as usual, but everyone was talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
But then when there was starting to get talk of, stay-at-home orders and travel impacts and canceled flights, and we're like, yeah, Maui's beautiful, but we can't afford to stay here.
Yeah.
So we're like, so we ended up just coming home a day or so early just to kind of get out ahead of it. And no sooner did we leave that they started shutting things down there. And as you do when you go on vacation, you kind of empty your fridge of all the perishables. So we actually needed to go like real grocery shopping when we got home. And I've never been that stressed to go grocery shopping before. It's been nuts.
Yeah, definitely. So, to that point, anybody that's with us right now, and if you're watching this later too, please chime in. This is great fun for us, but the real reason we decided to go live every other week in between the regular episodes was because we're all just stuck at home. And so we kind of took a guess that 8 o'clock Eastern time would be a good time for people. But, please let us know, because I know, and we know that a lot of people are live streaming right now, and we love the interaction. It's been fun, us talking and then looking at the chat and talking with you guys. So definitely let us know, man, and ladies.
Yeah.
What's a good time for you? What time would you want to sit down? I don't know that we can do it during the day, but, are we trying to do this at lunchtime? Are you guys listening while you work from home?
Yeah.
Let us know, and we'll do our best to meet you guys on that.
Yeah, and too, we love your feedback on like the show in general, and if you've got any like show topic ideas or just thoughts in general, we'd love to hear them. And you can either message us here on Facebook or leave a comment, but we've got email, glasshousespodcast@gmail.com, and we're on every other social media outlet as well. And glasshousespod.com is our website, so you can find us there for full episodes. Yeah.
That feels like a good spot. What do you think?
I think it's a good place to wind down. Yeah, this has been a lot of fun, and we appreciate everyone sticking with it and kind of as we figure out what we're doing here. But we've definitely had a good time, and like Jack said, we live 3,000 miles apart, so this is kind of how we record our episodes anyway. But it's kind of fun to include you all in it.
Yeah.
So we definitely would like to do some more of this. So we hope you had fun.
Yeah, definitely. And be sure to check out glasshousespod.com. Glass House is a Billy Joe podcast on Facebook and Spotify. Our next pre-recorded podcast will be out on Tuesday, and that's the viewing and listening companion to Live from Long Island.
Absolutely. So thanks again, everyone. We will see you very soon.
See you guys later.